Some shocks hit you as fast as a bullet, and by the time you realize you have been shot, everything is already beyond saving. I used to think the greatest pain of my life was losing my parents. I was wrong. The real pain was discovering that the remaining family had stabbed me without even blinking. On the day of the will reading, I finally understood. Family does not always mean love. My name is Mia Carter, 27 years old, born and raised in the suburbs of Charleston, South Carolina. My parents, Mr. Henry and Mrs. Linda Carter, were wealthy entrepreneurs owning numerous properties and shares in major companies. To outsiders, our family was the ideal model: successful, powerful, and proud. We filled the dusty oak-paneled room of Rawlings and Company law office. I wore a simple black dress, my hands numb from clenching so tightly, while my perfect older sister, Vanessa Carter, 30 years old, donned a brand new Chanel outfit, her lips curled into a sly smirk. When Mr. Rawlings, the aging family lawyer, began reading the will, each word felt like it was slicing into my skin. To our beloved daughter Vanessa, he paused, adjusting his glasses. We leave the entire real estate portfolio, financial assets, and the mansion in the Hamptons. Vanessa tilted her head, her diamond ring flashing with each subtle movement, her eyes gliding over me with a look of pure satisfaction, as if she had declared victory over my dead body. And me? Mr. Rawlings continued, his voice gravelly as if struggling with discomfort. To our daughter Mia, the old Carter farm located in the outskirts of Rock Creek, Wyoming. Silence fell over the room like a suffocating blanket. I could not breathe. The old farm? The one abandoned for over 2 decades since Grandpa's death? A desolate piece of land, with a crumbling house, and waist-high weeds? Laughter, cold as a knife's edge, sliced through the silence. Vanessa. Makes sense, she sneered, folding her arms. Mia always preferred playing in mud over attending cocktail parties anyway. Laughter spread like a virus among the aunts and uncles, who once patted my head and called me sweet little Mia. Today, their eyes saw nothing but a failure. I bit my lip until the metallic taste of blood filled my mouth, but I did not shed a single tear. I would not give them that satisfaction. There must be some mistake, one aunt, Mrs. Diane, blurted out, her voice a mix of confusion and irritation. Henry and Linda would never leave Mia with just that chicken coop. Mr. Rawlings shook his head, flipping to a page stamped with a bright red seal. The will was properly signed and legally certified. There is no mistake. Vanessa shrugged dramatically, her expensive gold bracelet jingling lightly. Oh, come on, Aunt Diane. Mia loves nature. A rundown farm in Wyoming will be her little paradise. A short, razor-sharp laugh escaped Vanessa's lips. I stood up, my fingers trembling as they clenched the rusty old key Mr. Rawlings had handed me, along with a manila envelope containing the property deed. No one stopped me as I walked out of that room saturated with hypocrisy. No one even called after me. They had decided. I was only worthy of dust and decay. My old Honda Civic roared as I sped out of the parking lot, the engine growling like the anger boiling inside me. I had lost my parents, and now, I had lost my family too. I gripped the key tighter, a spark of fury igniting deep within my chest. If they thought I would crumble, crawl back to Vanessa begging for crumbs, they were dead wrong. I had the farm. I had myself. And I swore, even if it was nothing but ruins, I would turn it into something they could never dare to look down on again. Even if the whole world turned its back on me, I would keep walking forward. My eyes burned, not with pain anymore, but with fire. The road to Rock Creek stretched endless and lonely, as if daring me to turn back. But I did not. The land my family saw as a burden would be where I began anew, or it would bury me trying. My Honda rattled violently as I crossed the rusted gates of Carter Farm. Everything was exactly as I imagined, or worse. Weeds grew taller than a man. Broken fences leaned and sagged. The main house stood like a sagging gray corpse under the heavy cloudy sky. But what drew my eyes instantly was the old barn at the far end of the property. Its tin roof was pockmarked like Swiss cheese. Its wooden planks rotted so badly a strong gust could knock it over. Yet somehow, it still stood. Like an old soldier too stubborn to fall. I pulled up my collar against the cold, gripped the bunch of keys tight, and trudged toward the barn. Every step sank deep into the muddy ground. The freezing air cut through my skin. My hand trembled as I touched the rotting door, a hard shove. The hinges screamed into the empty air, a sound like a soul wailing from the underworld. Inside, it was pitch black, with only a few lonely beams of light piercing through cracks in the walls. Rusted tractors, shattered crates, and broken farming tools lay scattered like bones in a graveyard. But something felt wrong. I had been here before. A distant memory surfaced. 5-year-old me, gripping Grandpa Jacob Carter's rough hand. Sneaking into this very barn. He had whispered in his warm, gravelly voice. "The greatest treasures are never found on the surface, little Mia." I scanned the dusty space. Something was off. The inside dimensions did not match the outside. My heart thudded painfully as I knelt by the north wall. I vaguely remembered Grandpa's old game, 3 taps, then push a certain plank. My fingers searched the splintered wood until they found a slight bump. Yeah. The air around me seemed to freeze solid. I took a deep breath and pressed the 4th board from the bottom. Blick! A small but sharp sound pierced the silence. Beneath my feet, part of the floor shuddered. I stumbled back, watching wide-eyed as a square hatch silently creaked open, revealing a staircase descending into utter darkness. Before, I might have run, but today fear was not what pushed me. Today, a fierce need burned inside me. I had to know the truth. Turning on the flashlight from my phone, I carefully stepped down each creaky stair, my breath pounding in my ears. The air down there was freezing, and heavy with the smell of mold. The staircase led to a spacious room, perfectly hidden beneath the layer of dry earth and stone. Faint light swept across the walls, covered in papers, maps, and charts I could not immediately understand. At the center of the room stood a large work table blanketed in dust, a tattered canvas sheet draped over complicated machinery, gauges, test tubes, and sample analyzers. A laboratory. Right beneath the ground. I could barely believe my eyes. Grandpa Jacob, the man the entire family had mocked as the eccentric old man, had secretly built a research facility right in what they had deemed worthless land. The flashlight flickered toward the corner of the room. A large safe stood, towering, covered in thick cobwebs. I approached it, palms drenched in sweat. 3 spins, and I gambled on the only number I thought Grandpa might use, my birthday, July 16, 1997. Then, the lock popped open. Slowly, I pulled the heavy door aside. Inside was no gold or cash, but a dark brown leather-bound notebook, and a USB drive carefully wrapped in a waterproof leather pouch. I flipped open the notebook. On the first page, written in neat blue ink, it said, "To Mia, the only grandchild who ever truly saw the real value, if you are reading this, it is time for the truth to be revealed." My fingers trembled as I turned each page. Inside were detailed notes on geological surveys, chemical analyses, and complex engineering schematics I only faintly understood. There was one thing I was absolutely certain of. Grandpa had discovered something profoundly important and had entrusted it to me, not to anyone else. I looked up, the flashlight beam cutting across the dusty ceiling. At that moment, I swore to myself. Whether it was treasure, technology, or something far beyond imagination, I would uncover it all. Because I now held something they, the family who had discarded me, could never take back. I plugged the USB into the battered laptop I had brought along, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it would shatter my chest. The screen flickered, then a single folder appeared named Project Perseus. I swallowed hard, my hand trembling as I moved the mouse to open the first file. Documents flooded the screen. Geological diagrams, mineral survey reports, process flow charts, along with dozens of patents signed under the name Jacob A. Carter. I flipped through the leather notebook on the table, piecing together the information. My grandpa was no crazy old fool as everyone had believed. He had uncovered one of the largest rare earth deposits in the northwestern United States, right underneath the Rock Creek farm. Not only that, he had invented a completely new rare earth extraction method. Costs 60% lower than traditional methods. No groundwater contamination. No toxic waste residue. A technology that could overturn the entire mining industry. A technology that would drive multinational corporations insane if they ever found out it existed. I sat frozen on the cold concrete floor, the flashlight beam swaying over the detailed mineral map carefully framed and hung on the wall. Beneath the barren, desolate ground was a treasure. Not gold or silver, but materials even more precious in the tech era. Neodymium, dysprosium, praseodymium. The essential elements for manufacturing electric motors, smartphones, and renewable energy systems. I turned to the final page of the notebook. A small slip of paper was tucked between the sheets, written in the familiar slanted handwriting. Mia, if you are reading this, know that I trust you. What I leave behind is not meant for the greedy, but for those with vision. Be cautious, they will try to steal it. Never let greed guide your way. I closed the notebook, a fierce wave of emotion rising in my chest. For years, I had lived in Vanessa's shadow. Belittled, forgotten, shoved aside. But now, I held the key to changing my life. Not just my life, but a part of the world's future as well. There was another folder on the USB, labeled Legal. I opened it, holding my breath. Inside were scanned copies of filed patents, complete with application numbers. Grandpa had completed all the legal steps necessary, but had deliberately left the commercialization dormant. Among the documents was a notarized letter of authorization stating that all intellectual property developed on Rock Creek Farm belonged solely to Mia Carter. What did that mean? It meant that every invention, every mineral deposit beneath my feet, was legally mine. No one, not a single person, could demand a share. I let out a dry laugh in the freezing underground bunker. All those years, they had looked at me like I was worthless. And now, I was sitting on a gold mine they never even knew existed. But I understood. If word of this got out too soon, I would be crushed before I had a chance to stand. Vanessa, Aunt Diane, the leeches who lived off inheritance. If they found out, they would stop at nothing to take it from me. I had to move carefully. I had to make this real before anyone noticed. I shut down the laptop, packed the USB and the notebook tightly into my backpack, and zipped it up. Standing up, I looked around the underground room one last time. Every wall, every piece of paper here, was Grandpa's true legacy. Not lavish mansions or flashy parties, but knowledge, trust, and the chance to build my own worth. I climbed the stairs, every step heavy, but my heart surging with determination. The secret door slammed shut behind me. Outside, the night wind howled bitterly. I tilted my head up toward the pitch-black sky, silently promising. The game was only just beginning. I returned to the old wooden house with a burning fire raging in my veins. There was no time to drown in emotions. I needed to act, fast, precise, and absolutely discreet. That night, under the dim light, I dug through old contact books and emails, searching for connections I had slowly built during my years working in finance in Charleston. I knew I could not do this alone. But I also could not reveal too much to anyone. The first number I dialed was Daniel Morgan, a corporate lawyer I had met while consulting on an infrastructure investment project. He was notorious for his discretion and absolute loyalty, at a steep price. The call lasted barely 3 minutes. "I need to meet you. This has to remain completely confidential. If you refuse, we will pretend this call never happened." Daniel responded with a single sentence. Send me the address by text. I will be there within 12 hours. I did not stop. The second call went to Dr. Hannah Lee, a mining engineer who had won awards for her research in sustainable mining. I knew she was being suppressed in a major corporation and was always looking for a chance to do something groundbreaking. Hannah, if you are ready to leave everything behind to join a project that could change the industry, I have what you are looking for. Silence. Then a deep breath of excitement from the other end. Send me the address and the start date. The final call was to Ryan Cole, an independent financial consultant who had left Wall Street because he could no longer stomach the dirty games in the banking world. A brilliant strategist, but more importantly, loyal only to his own principles. Ryan, I said bluntly, I need someone who can keep money clean like a polished altar. I am not doing anything illegal, but I need anonymity. He let out a raspy laugh. You have piqued my curiosity, Mia Carter. 3 days later, at a shabby motel 20 miles outside Rock Creek, we sat around a plastic table. No contracts, no paperwork. Just a verbal agreement. I spread out the USB drive, copies of patents, and mineral survey files before them. Daniel's eyes narrowed like a blade. Hannah almost gasped with excitement. Ryan remained silent, but his half-smile said everything. We set up a company immediately, Daniel said, tapping the table quickly. Not under your direct name. I will create a chain of subsidiaries, each owning a small part, so no one can trace the real owner. Hannah sketched a technology diagram on the back of a motel receipt. I can set up a small-scale lab within 3 months if you can find a reliable supplier. Your grandpa's old lab foundation is solid enough for it. Ryan simply lifted his coffee cup, squinting. I will establish a separate investment fund funneling capital into each phase through offshore accounts. If anyone snoops, all they will see is a bunch of obscure green tech companies. I nodded, each word heavy, like nails hammered into blood and bone. There can be no mistakes. One leak and we are dead. They needed no more convincing. They had chosen to walk this path with me. 2 weeks later, the dilapidated barn had transformed. We installed new electrical systems, private satellite Wi-Fi, air filtration units, and rows of specialized computers. Small-scale extraction devices were placed in the underground bunker, connected to the barn by a narrow passage Hannah designed. The exterior walls of the barn remained, covered in rotting wood, perfectly disguising the high-tech research center inside. We named the project Helios Labs, at Hannah's suggestion, meaning light within the earth. The official company name on paperwork was Rock Creek Sustainable Resources, LLC, with no traceable link to the Carter family. Every day, I worked from dawn until midnight, poring over each page of Grandpa's documents, updating the latest advancements in sustainable mining technology, and discussing with Hannah how to optimize the process. At night, standing alone inside the silent barn, I would tilt my head back, staring at the patchy ceiling, feeling a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. I knew I was playing a big game, one where if I failed, I would lose everything, and if I succeeded, I would rewrite my destiny. But deeper than ambition or fear, there was one thing I knew for certain. I would never let anyone steal what I and my grandpa had built. Not Vanessa. Not greedy family. Not anyone. The cold April wind blew fiercely, scattering white flyers across Rock Creek's main street. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the hem of my simple dark blue dress.